Hey, everybody. It's your boy, Dr. L. Thank you so much for checking out this particular podcast. I really appreciate it. Trying to get back into it. Maybe I'll do it a little bit better in 2025. So let's keep the conversation going and growing. So here we are. We're going to talk about a few different things that are going on with the end of 20. What is up with this? 2024. And some stories that occurred back then. And now we're getting into 2025. And so we're just going to take a look at some stories that are going on that are rocking the nation, unfortunately, when it comes to law enforcement and all that. If you're not aware, yes, I am a former police officer, did 24 years within a department in Connecticut, went back to school, completed a couple of degrees and all that kind of stuff. So now I do some YouTube stuff. I talk about a lot of relationship type stuff as well. All right. So the first story we're gonna deal with is this guy, former chief of department, former chief of in NYPD, and different departments will have different rank structures and all that kind of stuff. So it's really intriguing. So he has been accused of demanding sexual favors in return for overtime pay, and all that. So I've been asked my opinion about this in other stories as well. So I'll try to give my opinion. I'm going to wait till we watch a few videos about this. What is curious to me is what's going on concerning the newest developments about his case, and that is that the feds have raided this man's home. He came under fire for the allegations by a lieutenant, a lower ranking subordinate. And as a result of those allegations that this lady made about him, forcing her to perform sexual favors in order for her to receive overtime, $400,000 in overtime, he then resigned and all that. Yesterday, as I record this, his home and other things that he owned were raided by the feds, which is curious because sexual harassment isn't necessarily a crime. I mean, you can be sued for it and lose civilly and all that, but are you going to be directly, particularly a federal offense? So, I mean, unless he's transporting across state lines and all that kind of stuff, and of course, the feds are being silent as usual. So, but I gotta assume my assumption is that this is somehow linked to Eric Adams, and that'll become more understandable as we go on. So let's take a look at the story.
More breaking news for you. Wait till you hear this one. This has to do with the former NYPD Chief of Department, Jeffrey Madry. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch just announced that Mr. Madry is being investigated by both the Internal Affairs Bureau and federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York.
Federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York. So just because someone resigns from the police department doesn't mean that the internal affairs investigation stops. We did that all the time. So sometimes people think, oh, you don't work there anymore. So what are they investigating? Well, they're still going to make sure that no crimes were committed and things along those lines. So, and this is essential, for the integrity of the department and see how deep any type of corruption goes. When maybe it's not just him, but maybe this is an internal problem within the police department that chiefs in upper echelon are having their employees engage in sexual favors in order for overtime. So let me just address this overtime thing before we continue on the video. Overtime, it's going to vary from department to department. Usually overtime is, and I would suspect in a department as big as this, and I did do some digging, I couldn't find anything, but usually I would assume that a department as big as New York City, which 40,000 employees roughly, somehow would have some type of system that monitors for overtime in order to make sure that it's fair. One person making $400,000, in addition to or in agreement with their salary, let's just say they're making $300,000 in strict overtime, that may not be fair to another lieutenant who's not getting access to overtime. So the union will be watching watching this and all this. So in ours, we had what we called a card system in which officers, you were called for overtime, given an opportunity for overtime, you either say yay or nay, or if you didn't answer the phone, or text message, or whatever, they would move on to the next person within a certain allotted time that was agreed upon again by the union. So I can't imagine why New York City doesn't have some type of measure similar to this. So let's continue on with the video.
Jessica Tisch, our police commissioner, adds that the law enforcement officials executed search warrants at several locations, including Jeffrey Madry's residence. Now, he resigned following allegations that he forced a subordinate to perform sexual favors in exchange for overtime pay. He has denied those claims. He claims that they were in a consensual relationship. Stay tuned.
Yeah,
more breaking news on this.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you involve the Southern District of New York, it looks to expand whatever investigation was already happening from within the NYPD to looking at the possibility of criminal charges, of course, when you get the federal prosecutors involved.
And he resigned.
He did resign. And so now it appears that he's also been suspended. So possibly that the resignation process takes a little bit of time. And maybe this is more of a formal attempt to move that process along.
And we know over the last few days, the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, has basically reassigned people,
Internal
moved people
affairs,
out,
yes.
internal affairs. I mean,
yeah. So that all that tells you that there was a mess. They recognize, and shame on Jessica Tisch for not knowing what's going on. It was obviously a mess, and they're going to be looking at crazy lawsuits and just Peyton's place, and just a brothel just going on here. Your supervisors doing all this. Now, in my department, what we would do is we would have mandatory, in the whole matter of fact, for the whole state of Connecticut, if you became a supervisor, you had mandatory training, and this is where I really kind of doubt what's the veracity of what's going on here. We had mandatory sexual harassment training that was done, I want to say every 2 years, that you had to sit through a class, not just when you became a supervisor, but even those who were on lower rungs, entry level officers, if you will, uh, and even our civilian employees had to go through sexual harassment training. What it means, what it looks like, who to report to, how to get it to stop, all kind of stuff like that. So this idea that this was just going on is, I just find it difficult to believe. I just find it difficult to believe that there was no monitoring of the overtime process, that, that she racked up $400,000, continuing to rail against, continuing to rack up this, never saying no, never coming out. She's a lieutenant. People would have to tell her. A lieutenant is in the command structure. So if you got an entry level officer, above them would be a sergeant, and above them would be a lieutenant. So you got sergeants and entry level officers who have to report up the chain of command to a lieutenant, who would then have to report things. You're going to try to tell me that she doesn't have the wherewithal to understand the process about how to report sexual harassment training, this, that, and the other. Another thing that I looked up is how people get promoted within the NYPD. Couldn't find it, but in my department, we had a promotional process, which it was you signed up to take a promotional examination. A test was given based on state laws, based on policies and procedures of the department, or union items, different scenarios, and you had to, usually it's a written test and or a performance type of test, or an oral examination, sit before a board. And so you'd have to answer questions like this, right? If you're going to be a supervisor, how do you handle people who are going through sexual harassment? Doing exactly what what the superintendent is now doing, and making reassignments. You reassign people, you get them out, you advance sexual harassment training, you put things up within the department. All these are standard answers for how you deal with allegations of sexual harassment. Roll call training, reassignments, retraining, all this type of stuff, right? Counseling for people who have gone through the emotional trauma of being harassed, all this type of stuff. You're going to try to tell me that this woman in a large department like this doesn't know all this stuff, hasn't had this training, hasn't. I don't believe it at all. I hate to sound cynical. I know we want to believe women. I know the Me Too movement, but I just don't believe it. After the Me Too movement, all that's going on in New York, this woman doesn't know that she can't say no. I don't believe it. I don't buy it at all. Sorry. I don't. I don't buy it at all. So I think, but this is a lesson to the men out there, or to even to the ladies out there, when you're in positions of authority, whether you're in the police department, fire department, corrections, teachers, business world, wherever you're at. This ought to be a continued lesson. Even though this is a shakeup, there's going to be somebody out in California, Chicago, Miami, New York, Dallas, whatever, still engaging in this type of activity, all this kind of stuff, and they're going to be embarrassed within a couple of years because it's going to come out that they're doing this as well. So listen, so if you're in a supervisor in this type of capacity, and listen, people use I had ladies when I was working, I was a sergeant, lieutenant, whatever, captain, people coming on to me and stuff. I never talked about it much, but can't take that chance. I don't want to be embarrassed. Now this guy lost his career. You lose your family, lose your career, paying thousands of dollars in lawyers' fees, you know. So that's that. So this is from the city reporting to New Yorkers. Let's see, is this popping up? Make sure this is here. No, you can't see that. Let me stop. Present screen here, share screen, and do this one. Okay. Okay, so this is from the New Yorker. Let me maybe make this a little bit bigger so you can read this here. All right, so you can read this. So this, Eric Adams promoted and protected by Jeffrey Madry. Eric Adams, who's the mayor of New York City, promoted and protected Jeffrey Madry, ex-NYPD chief, in explosive misconduct complaint. So here's Eric Adams on the right side. This is Madry in the middle. Mayor Eric Adams characterized as alarming the allegations against NY Chief Jeffrey Madry, who resigned late Friday after a subordinate filed a complaint alleging Madry had pushed her into sexual favors for overtime pay on the job. They're extremely concerning. NYPD Quatisha Epps Quatisha Epps said in a complaint to New York State Division of Human Rights in Madry, right? You go to the human rights. This is more evidence. You go to human rights because your department isn't doing anything. Now you can go straight to the Department of Human Rights for any state. You can go straight to them. But if you feel as if it's a situation where your department is in on it, not dragging their feet, has a culture of this type of behavior, then you can go straight to the Human Rights Department. That Madry engaged in quid pro quo sexual harassment by exploiting her emotional and financial vulnerabilities, as well as her history of childhood trauma, to coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities in the workplace. I don't believe a word of that. I believe she said it, but I don't believe that was going on. So she earned more than $400,000, including the overtime pay last year. She told the Post, I think he's a predator. I'm not going to read the rest of this, but District Attorney's Office, extremely concerning. 3 lesser charges. Let's see. NYPD investigators determined Madry had provided them an inaccurate. Here is what is important here. Adams appointed Madry as chief of department despite his prior allegation that Madry got into a physical tussle with an underling he was having an affair with in late 2015 and lied to the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau about it. So people constantly say, isn't it not illegal to date your subordinates and stuff? You can't, while it's unwise, unadvisable, you can't stop people from dating who they want to date. That you can't stop dating people from dating who they want to date. So this is at least second time that we can know of that he's been involved with someone, and then he got into a physical altercation and then wasn't truthful about it, which he should have been disciplined for. But despite that, Eric Adams apparently promoted him. And again, they do things for favors and stuff, right? NYPD investigators determined Madry had provided them with inaccurate and misleading statements about the incident on 2 occasions and requested formal charges against her for lying that ordinarily would have led to termination. But Madry worked behind the scenes to negotiate a settlement that dismissed those top charges, inaccurate statements and or lying, pleading guilty to 3 lesser charges that stripped him of 45 days of vacation. Obviously, the guy didn't learn his lesson. Once Madry was ensconced as chief of department, Adams moved to protect him in the face of charges he had abused his power. In a video investigation last year, the city brought to light a 2021 incident in which Madry, then the NYPD's chief of community affairs, acted to avoid the arrest of a retired colleague who chased 3 boys with the gun. And here's a video. Let's watch this. whole thing.
On the streets of Brownsville, Brooklyn, a retired cop chased and threatened 3 children after one of them damaged his family's storefront camera.
I came out, I said, "You broke my camera, you come back, I'm going to shoot your ass."
Police from the local precinct arrested the retired officer for allegedly menacing the kids with a gun, which in New York involves intentionally putting someone in fear of death or imminent physical injury.
Tell Jay, call Sergeant Lewis, and also Sergeant Lewis, call Chief Madry for me.
Yet, rather than getting processed and arraigned, the former cop was removed from a jail cell within 40 minutes and released 2 hours later. The NYPD claims an investigation was conducted that night, which led to his release. But video footage newly obtained by the city offers a rare behind-the-scenes look at how 2 top NYPD chiefs, one now the highest-ranking uniformed officer in the department, intervened. 36 video.
Okay, so you guys can go over to the city and watch the full 7-minute video to get the context of all that. So you can also read the rest of this report here. So, it seems as if they're all in cahoots with each other. And within 40 minutes, you can't conduct a thorough investigation within 40 minutes, all that kind of stuff. So that's that. Let's see. Stop screen share, present, share screen, and we'll do. So this is where I think that this is where Eric Adams is going to come in at, right? NYPD still racking up overtime, and mom on social media posts, right? Can't explain the amount of overtime that these people are getting. The New York City Council criticized police leaders for fiscal mismanagement and unprofessional posts. So here's another article from City and State New York about their overtime. April, Eric Adams released his billion-dollar budget, fiscal year 2025, which begins July 1st. The budget proposed included $5 billion for the police department, $72 million increase from preliminary financial release, yada yada yada. So there's all kind of stuff that's going on here. Repeated overspending, budget concerns. So this is probably this whole mix of why the feds, in addition to Eric Adams' other issues, as to why the feds are raiding Madry's home. So we'll wait and see what the deal is with that. Let's see. There's something else here. Let's see. All right, let's watch this one here. Here's a video here. We'll do this. Can we see this? Can you all see this? Yeah, you can see this. Okay. So we'll play this video here. This is from the New York, from ABC News.
Officially suspended. It's just more turmoil within the NYPD. We are learning now that the NYPD's former chief of department, Jeffrey Madry, this is his home behind me here, and we did just see investigators leaving this morning. This is one of several locations that we're told that search warrants were executed at. Again, we saw about a dozen investigators leave the home behind me here just before 10 a.m. Some of them were carrying boxes, some of them were taking photos. It's unclear what we saw, what is in those boxes and what it is that they were looking for, but we do not believe that Madry is here or living here at the moment. This all comes, let's take a step back here. This comes after Madry already put his resignation in last month following allegations of sexual harassment by a lieutenant who says the former NYPD chief coerced her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities. Now, Madry's lawyer has denied the claims and said the relationship was consensual. The U.S. Attorney's Office, though, now for the Southern District of New York is furthering this investigation more than just what the NYPD was looking into. Now, this is the highest ranking uniformed officer, and his resignation was set to go in effect later this month. But again, now he is officially suspended as of today. John Chell was already named as his replacement. And this all follows months of scandal and leadership turnover within the NYPD and within the Adams administration. In a statement, Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said, quote, "At my my direction, the Internal Affairs Bureau of the New York City Police Department is working with law enforcement authorities to investigate allegations against former Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey. Maddrey was suspended from the department this morning as law enforcement agents executed search warrants at several locations, including his residence. Now, the commissioner adds that federal prosecutors are leading this investigation at this point and that any further questions should be directed to them. We did reach out to Maddrey for comment, but have yet to hear back.
Yeah, so that's that story there. Let's see. Try to get out of this. All right, so that's that story. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So that's that. Let's close some of these tabs here. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. I mean, do you buy what she's saying? You know, here's a woman who's, I'm presuming, as a lieutenant, she's been there for certain length of time, and you know, presumably, I would almost guarantee that her file, her record, her history would demonstrate that she's had sexual harassment training both as a supervisor and as a lady, or just a regular officer who's been doing that. So, what are your thoughts about that? I don't believe it at all. Let's see. All right, so let's get into the next story here. Let's get into the next story, and this is, of course, what's still being investigated is the situation with the police probe. Where is this? Federal cross investigative foreigner. No, that's not what I wanted. Hold on, I apologize. This is that's not what I wanted. Okay, police probe blast. That's what I want. All right. So we're going to look into the situation with Louisiana. It's still, I'm always so leery, I should say, of looking into of commenting on these different investigations that are going on. Now we know that there was a blast within or next to the Trump Hotel in Vegas, and there was a New Orleans attack, and they're trying to link the two or trying to see if they were somehow connected. I was listening to a former reporter who has her own YouTube channel now, and she was talking about this. And I'm just not convinced that there's a link yet. We'll have to wait and see what's going on with that, but I'm just not convinced of that. So this is from the BBC. Police probe if blast at Trump Hotel is linked to New Orleans attack. Police in the U.S. are investigating whether an explosion outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas is linked to a deadly car ramming attack in New Orleans. The driver of the Tesla Cybertruck was killed, and several other people were injured in Las Vegas after the vehicle filled with fuel canisters and firework mortars exploded. Officials says all injuries were minor. In the New Orleans attack, 42-year-old citizen is believed to have driven a pickup truck into a crowd on a busy street, killing 14 people and injuring 35 before being shot by police. President Joe Biden said investigators looking to whether incidents were leaked, but thus far there is nothing to report. The Cybertruck was rented in Colorado and arrived in the city on Wednesday morning, less than 2 hours before the detonation. Police had parked in front of the hotel near a glass entrance. The vehicle started to smoke, then exploded. The vehicle was rented to Matthew Allen Livelsberger, an active duty U.S. Army service member. Officials are working to verify that he was the driver of the found dead in the truck. The driver also had a gunshot wound to the head, which police say was self-inflicted. Now, on the show that I was telling you about, Miss Sabby Sabs, she read something that said that it appeared that the gunshot wound was prior to the explosion. Now that, if true to be found out to be true, would be very, very curious, because that would mean that this guy, what's his name? That this guy, Livelsberger, yeah, not Livelsberger, may be alive and faked his death, and somebody else is gone. So we got to, that's definitely something to pay attention to. Livelsberger had been serving in Germany, but was on leave in Colorado at the time of the incident. Two relatives of Livelsberger confirmed to CBS he had rented the Cybertruck, but were unaware of his involvement in the incident. One relative said Livelsberger's wife had not heard from him in several days. Sheriff Kevin McMahill showed reporters dramatic footage of the explosion and photos of the aftermath, including several fuel canisters along with fireworks in the bed of the truck. Is this video? Let's see.
Score up to 70% off store-wide and online at Michael's. Get incredible savings during our mega clearance event. Save big on Christmas and shop great deals on creative supplies when you...
I did not preview this. I tried to do this stuff live, so I didn't preview this.
A 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. We saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded.
I just heard a boom.
Oh my God. I heard that boom too, but I didn't know it was actually outside.
But it looks like something is continuing to burn.
On fire,
yeah, and the smoke is getting blacker.
Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and large firework mortars.
So this is obviously a sad story. You guys can go over it and read it all. And we're going to have to just wait and see what the situation is, whether these two are linked, and all that. So, you know, it's really a devastating story, you know, obviously. So that's that. Let's see. So, and here is the, this is the lady I was listening to when she's talking about this, and she's reading through this. So you can go over to her channel and check that out, determine whether you want to, you know, believe, you know, her assessment of the situation or not. But it's really, really a shame in my estimation. So we can read a little bit of this guy's from the New Orleans situation. We can read a little bit about him. So an Army veteran struggled, veteran's path to radicalization followed divorces, struggling businesses in Texas. His business was not struggling. I don't know why they wrote that. Shamsuddin Jabbar grew up in Texas, joined the Army, eventually settled in Houston. I have something here that I think I closed the tab, but anyway, they had his former name. That was not his given name at birth. Let me see if I have another tab here. No, I don't. I don't have it on another tab. Yeah, I do not have it on another tab. But that was not his given name at birth. But the 42-year-old U.S. citizen who authorities say plowed into a rental truck New Year's revelers before being offed by police also faced pressures. He finalized a third divorce, saying his filings he couldn't pay his mortgage and his business was losing money. But he was making $120 a year, but he probably had to pay divorce lawyers, or you know, who knows what he had to pay to force two divorces and all that kind of stuff. On Thursday, authorities and relatives were still piecing together why Jabbar barreled through a crowd of F-150 on Bourbon Street, killing 14 revelers and injuring at least 30 others. Officials said that he was inspired by Islamic State group, making it one of the deadliest IS inspired assaults on U.S. soil in years. I'm not buying that he was connected to that. I'm just not buying it. So this goes through his history, his time of being within the department, what he did in the army, his alleged radicalization efforts, things like that. Dwayne Marsh, who is married to one of Jabbar's ex-wives, told Jabbar has been acting erratically in recent months. Well, you've gone through 3 divorces, losing money. I can imagine. So Marsh said he and his wife had stopped allowing the 2 daughters she shared with Jabbar to spend time with him. The AP left message with Marsh Thursday. Mr. also left with 2 other ex-wives or their attorneys. So he doesn't want to talk to anyone. Divorce records show that Jabbar faced a deteriorating financial situation in January 2022. Jabbar said that he was $27,000 behind on house payments and wanted to quickly finalize divorce. I've exhausted all means of bringing the loan current with other than loan modification, leaving us no alternative but to sell the house or allow it to go into foreclosure. His businesses were struggling too. One business, Blue Metal Properties, lost about $28,000. 2 other businesses he started, Jabbar Real Estate Holdings LLC, weren't worth anything. He also accumulated $16,000 in credit card debt because of expenses like attorney's fees, according to the email. So he's obviously going through some tough times and all that kind of stuff. But does that radicalize you? Could be, but it's hard to say, and I really want to wait and see what's going on with this. The feds are involved in this. In that picture that I showed you with Sabby Sabs, she was talking to Kennedy. I think he's a senator from Louisiana, Senator Kennedy. And she asked him specific, or someone had asked, it was a video clip of him being asked, is this a terrorist attack? Are other cities or other states in the line of fire? Do we have things to be concerned about? And he, of course, said he didn't want to answer. He could answer, but he wasn't going to, whatever the heck that means. I could answer that, but I'm not going to. So it's all very, very interesting. All very interesting. All right. And the last, so again, I'd like your thoughts and your opinions. Do you think the 2 are linked? He's obviously having some financial difficulties and all that kind of stuff. But I wish that, let me see if maybe it's in my history here, because I think that was important to show. I think it was important to show that he did not, that he was not born with that name. So I thought that was interesting. And they talked to his family. No, that's not it. Let's see, terror attack. All right, I'm not going to go through that. So anyway, that was that. So the final story, which is the most egregious of the night, is the situation that's going on with Robert Brooks. I was asked my opinion about Robert Brooks, and listen, it's despicable and disgusting. There's nothing else that can be said about that. It's despicable and disgusting. What happened with this man? This is a situation wherein these thugs who are calling themselves corrections officers beat this man and literally beat him to death, while other people, here these guys are posing like he's a trophy, hands behind his back, all bloodied and stuff, choking him, all kicking him, putting his foot on him. Just like, what is going on in this department? What is going on in this department? What is going on in this department? So Stephen A. Smith is requesting arrests. Listen, there's no excuse for it. I'm not gonna. There's nothing else. What do you want me to say? It's despicable, disgusting. It can't be tolerated. Shouldn't be tolerated. We should be fighting back against this type of thing. Writing letters, calling your congressman, doing what you got to do. Joining organizations, all doing everything we got to do. And this is a situation wherein listen, the words have already been said so many times. It's despicable, disgusting. And if you watch the videos, which I'm not going to play, These officers are standing there. Other officers are standing around watching this, hands in their pockets, guys being lifted up by his neck, put against the wall. They're disgusting, absolutely disgusting. All corrections officers should condemn this. All members of law enforcement and criminal justice system should condemn their actions. I condemn them wholeheartedly. There's nothing else that needs to be said by me. It is what it is. And I can imagine these guys are going to go to jail for a long time. If we can remember back to the case where these officers in Memphis, Tennessee, the majority of them were black, had chased down and hunted this guy for allegedly, running a red light. And although there may have been case or a situation wherein the guy was dating somebody else, but I heard that was debunked as well. But regardless, they chased this man down, got him out of his car, and beat him to death. These guys they're in prison, deservedly so. And here's the same thing that's going to happen to these guys. And unfortunately, sadly to say, and sickening to say, it'll continue to happen. These guys, whether they thought that their video cameras are off, whatever, no sound because they thought it was off, all kind of just crazy foolishness that was going on. And listen, after George Floyd, there was a national referendum on all this kind of stuff, body cameras, chokeholds. While it didn't pass on the federal level, most states and departments, cities passed some type of measure about banning chokeholds. The biggest three was banning chokeholds and duty to intervene, duty to act. And I can almost imagine that almost every police department has some type of duty to act within their bylaws, their rules and regulations, and that they would have. And I would imagine that most corrections department would have that too. It's got to be a violation of nobody that you're using physical force and not having your body camera on. That's got to be a violation. So what's going on in this department? And for the chief to be like, "Oh, this is crazy. This is, I abhor this kind of violence," and whatever other nonsense he said. If you don't know what's going on in your department, shame on you. And and so now the New York attorney who would investigate this is got to recuse herself because her department her department has been aiding other individuals. And I think that that's right that she recused herself. I don't think that, situations like this, because you work so closely with these officers, whether it's police officers or corrections officers, you can do a good job. If you've worked with them, you can't defend them or prosecute them. So Letitia James, the attorney general, said a special prosecutor would lead an investigation in a deadly attack on Robert Brooks because her office had possible conflict of interest. Letitia James, the New York attorney general, said on Thursday that her office is recusing itself from the investigation and it opened into the fatal beating of a state prison inmate, and that special prosecutor would lead the inquiry instead. Ms. James said in the video announcement that lawyers in her office were currently defending 4 of the 13 corrections officers implicated in the death of the man Robert L. Brooks and other matters. In light of that, she said she and her staff members had determined that the recusal was necessary to ensure that the mere appearance of a conflict not tie up a potential prosecution in a lengthy legal challenges or get potential prosecuted outright dismissed. So that is the right thing to do. On Monday, Governor Kathy Hochul installed a new superintendent at the Marcy prison after previously directing the state corrections commissioner to begin the process of firing the 13 in prison nurse implicated in Mr. Brooks' death. On Monday, and one officer, Anthony Farina, had already resigned. The other has been suspended without pay. I did have it here where they had their names listed. So listen, I think that the Chiefs got to go. I think that the Chiefs got to go. State police preliminary findings, in addition to inquiry and restriction, that Mr. Patrick will now lead the state police corrections department and the FBI examining circumstances. It's crazy. What does this say? Yeah. installed a new top leader upstate where 14 after Governor Kathy Hochul on New York on Monday installed a new top leader at the upstate prison where 14 correction workers have been implicated in the fatal attack on an inmate that was captured on video. After a visit to the prison Marcy Correctional Facility, Ms. Hochul said that she had directed the state's corrections commissioner to immediately replace the acting superintendent with a permanent superintendent from another New York prison. The governor's order came 3 days after footage of the deadly beating was made public. Yeah, that was the right decision. That's the right decision. If because this is because this was a cultural issue. This is a cultural issue. Let me say it again for the people in the back. You don't just get police officers who are or corrections officers who are standing around as if nothing's going on. Nobody's heart's racing. Apparently, this is a everyday occurrence. They see it all the time. Nobody reports this later on. Even the nurse didn't report it. This is just, hey, par for the course. Just another day at the office. We're just beating people up because they're saying stuff and talking to us crazy, even though they're handcuffed and all this kind of crazy stuff. It's a cultural issue, and that acting superintendent should have been replaced immediately. Absolutely. 1000%. 1000%. You're part of the problem. Same thing with I'm saying within the New York City Police Department. If this new superintendent who's over the NYPD is now making assignments and reassignments and moving people and shuffling people around, you can't work with these people. It's a cultural issue that's going on here. It's culture. It's culture. So that's my opinion about the situation that's going on with these individuals, with these departments and all that kind of stuff, right? It's a cultural issue, and there's got to be investigations, and certainly outside agencies from the state AG's office, the federal AG, the FBI, all these they all got to look into what's going on here. These people are running amok. So thank goodness for these different watchdogs and other organizations and all that kind of stuff. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you have any other stories you want me to cover, make sure that you send me an email or hit me up and we'll make it happen. Much love and peace.